Stop it. Get some help.
I'm gonna talk about my 2 months progress of learning Japanese, Nihongo, and the only languages I know right now is my native tongue, which is Swedish. I know English and a little bit of Espanol.
Hola, me llamo Ricardo. ¿Y tú?
And I've never actually felt the urge to learn a new language. And you might think like, why would you learn a new language which is ranked the 3rd highest in the world? Actually, for Swedish people, it's actually ranked the 5th of the world because we have some similarities. Before I talk about my progress, I think it makes sense that I talk about my background with Japanese. Like, why did I want to learn Japanese in the first place? So it all started back in 2021 when I thought of, I want to watch some anime because I've seen anime and I want to watch anime. So for a half a year I watched anime. Jouzu was actually the first anime series I watched. Then I became interested in Japan, like, I want to learn more about Japan because maybe I want to go there and go to, Akihabara and look at many otaku things. And then I watched other YouTubers who talked about Japan. But at the time, Japan was actually closed, so I couldn't go there. And I didn't know when it was going to open. But when it finally opened, I just went to Japan. So I went to Japan and had an amazing time. I went to Akihabara. I went to all the otaku places. I walked up to the 7th floor and looked at some
I got a pizza here.
No, my friend actually showed me that ship. I felt I really couldn't communicate with the Japanese people. And I never felt that I wanted to learn a new language. But in Japan, I wanted to learn the language because, I watch anime. I can say like, and I don't know, the language is so freaking beautiful. So I just wanted to learn it because I want to go back to Japan. And when I go back to Japan, I can talk a little bit of Japanese. So when I went back home, I felt like, I want to learn more of this language. And in Japan, I actually learned some Japanese a little bit, like phrases and stuff, like some phrases. I could only say like, sumimasen, tasukete kure, konnichiwa, and of course, omae wa mo shinderu. I cannot use the anime phrases in real life, so I have to learn real Japanese. So I went back home and started studying Japanese. So that's my whole backstory, my whole anime backstory. So now I'm gonna talk about the 2 months. I'm gonna talk about the first month of me learning Japanese. So the first month was actually in January 2023, like 1.5 months ago. This was the month I was in Japan, where I learned Hiragana and Katakana. So for learning Hiragana and Katakana, I used the app called Hiragana Quest. And the app costs like $6. Japan has 3 alphabets. Hiragana, which is like the normal Japanese alphabet, and Katakana is for like writing foreign words. And kanji, that's hard, man. You can say kanji is words compressed into a single character. And there's like 10,000 kanjis. No. Yeah, I searched it up. It's like, there's like 50,000 kanjis. Meow, that's a lot. And in Japan, I made some friends there, where I learned some phrases and I learned like how the language should sound like. That's what I learned in the first month of learning Japanese. And when I came home, this is the second month I was learning Japanese. This is where I felt the urge like, I want to learn Japanese because I want to talk Japan. What the fuck? I want to talk Japanese. So in the second month, I just binge watched so many videos of how to learn Japanese. And I came to this dude called Japanese Zero to Hero, which is a guy who does like free courses on YouTube about like Japanese. And then I needed to learn vocabulary. So I watched a dude called Jouzu Juls, which explained like Anki. And Anki you can use for vocabulary. So Anki is like a spaced repetition program, so you can learn words much faster. I also started at this time to listen to a podcast, which is called Let's Talk in Japanese. So I did that for a while. Then I felt like, I think goals could be good for me because then I won't stop studying Japanese. So I watched Ruri Ohama on a video called How to Set Goals. And basically in that video, I learned that you should have both input goals and output goals. And let's see, output goals is actually what you want. For example, I wrote down, let's see what I wrote down. I wrote down that I want to be able to communicate and understand basic Japanese. And I also want to be able to consume Japanese content like manga and anime series. And input goals is what are you willing to put into that goal. For example, I'm gonna study 4 hours per week and I'm gonna study 25 minutes of vocabulary each and every day. I could study Japanese even more if I wanted to, but right now, my focus is not on Japanese. This is like a side thing I do on the side. So I have like maybe 4 hours every week to study it, or even more. And also every morning I do Anki vocabulary. So I learn vocabulary. So I'm not setting a goal of like, I'm gonna become the best in the world. I'm gonna become the most fluent in the freaking world. Because that is not really realistic. What I want to go to, I want to go to N5 level of the JLPT test. So what JLPT stands for is Japanese Language Proficiency Test. That's a long sentence. And it's divided in 5 levels. N1 being the hardest and N5 being the easiest. And if you learn N5, then you can speak and talk in a basic Japanese conversation. Yeah! So after this, I felt I need more structure. Because right now I'm just learning from a dude right here, I'm learning from some dude over here. I need some structure. And then I saw this video from ToKini Andy, which is called How I Would Learn Japanese If I Could Start Over. And this video was, this video is so fucking good because it shows like from when you are a beginner, what you need to learn, to when you are a pro. If you want to learn Japanese, definitely check this dude out. ToKini Andy. When you learn something new, you have to learn the basics of it. You have to learn the fundamentals of it. And the fundamentals is grammar, vocabulary, listening, and speaking. So I picked up 1 copy of Genki 1, which I borrowed from the library, plus the workbook of like the Genki 1. And I also continued the Anki deck, which is called the 2K/6K words of Japanese. And for listening, I switched from Let's Talk in Japanese to another podcast that's easier. So I started listening to Nihongo ga Teppei beginner podcast. This is like the perfect podcast to listen to if you don't know any Japanese. And when you listen to like the podcast, you can send some words that you know, which is amazing. I don't know what more to talk about it. And recently, I've been going through ToKini's beginner course of Japanese. And this beginner course is awesome because it's like a great supplement to the Genki 1. And it's really cheap, it's like $10. Now you ask yourself like, how many words have I learned? How many like kanjis have I learned? How far have I gone through the Genki textbook? Since I'm just studying like 3 to 4 hours every week in the textbook, plus going through the Anki deck 20 to 25 minutes per day, I have like a total of 5 to 7 hours of Japanese every week, which is not a lot, but you know, it's not my main focus. So I expect I will like go through the Genki textbook in maybe half a year or something. But what have I learned? My progress, actual progress. So I've gone through like 16% of the Genki 1 textbook, which is 2 lessons out of 12 lessons in the Genki textbook. So I recently just started the Genki textbook. The Genki 1 textbook is for basic grammar. If you watch right here on my Anki, you can see that I have learned 170 words. I've learned 170 words, plus I know some words outside this Anki deck also. So let's say I know 220 words, which means to complete the N5 test, you need to learn 800 words. I've learned 20 to 40 kanji so far, I think. And you need to learn like 100 kanjis to complete the N5 test of the JLPT. So that's about it. That's what I've learned so far in these 2 months of progress. And if you enjoyed this video, smash that like button. Smash that like button. Bye.